I found like the best books of my life just based on cover picking.
And then I've read really good books that had horrible covers, and I'm like, man, I feel like this book would have done so much better in sales if they had had a different cover. Welcome to the Books and Brunch podcast. I'm Amber.
I'm Noelle.
We're doing something a little different for October. We're doing different mini episodes on great October reads. And this one will focus on witchy vibes. And we have a few recommendations. The first one is one that we have done a full episode on. The Women Could Fly. If you like that one or you haven't listened to the episode yet or you're looking for one to read, we have a full long episode on that you can check out. And then in our last episode, if you missed it, we were talking about books that had to do with haunted houses. And so I brought up this one, The Ninth House, because it has an alive house in it, but that's not the plot.
It's dark academia, right?
Right, and I don't even know that it would necessarily be considered witches, but it's people practicing witchcraft.
Occult? Can we call it occult?
Kind of. So
is it like Eyes Wide Shut stuff?
I haven't seen that, but what it is it's on a college campus, and you have the different societies, kind of like you have Greek life, and so the different societies, they are secret societies, and they practice different types of spells and things. The book follows this girl who can see, like, if things cross over the veil. And so her job is to go to their meetings so that if they accidentally create a rift or let something in, she can see it and expel it. Because the people doing the spells, like, they're not actually witches. They're just part of the society. And so they're kind of reckless, or they don't totally know what they're doing.
Right.
And then there's like a missing person, and it's the whole dark academia. And it is magic and witchy, but her main thing, her power, is seeing things not of this realm.
That kind of reminds me of the book we're reading right now by Mariana Enriquez.
I'm not very far, so don't spoil it for me.
Okay. No, spoil it. I'm just saying there are seers in that book. It's a very appropriate October read.
But that's my first recommendation. Do you have any witchy books?
Yeah, so I have two. They're kind of magical. One, I would say anything that Terry Pratchett writes. He passed away a couple years ago, but he's a British author. Everything that he writes takes place in a magical world. He actually created a world, kind of, you know how there's like universes within people's works of literature, like Tolkien wrote in Middle-earth. He created Middle-earth. Well, Terry Pratchett created the Discworld. And the Discworld operates by its own, laws. So there is magic, and there's a lot of suspended belief going into Terry Pratchett books. But Mort is actually my husband's favorite book. It's about a young kid who kind of doesn't fit in, and he lives in this town where they have these like job fairs. Every young man and woman have to get an apprenticeship, and Mort gets the apprenticeship as the next Grim Reaper. And it's him learning the job, learning about who the last Grim Reaper was, and kind of seeing the other side of reality that he was not previously privy to. And it's fantastic. So Terry Pratchett, if you guys like Good Omens, did you read Good Omens or watch the show?
I watched it.
Yeah. So Good Omens was written by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman together. They collaborated, and it's very much that kind of magical realism. I love it so much.
This one is also about a Grim Reaper. It is called First Grave on the Right by Dorinda Jones, and it is a series. There are 13 books in the series. It is about a woman who's a Grim Reaper, but she's also a private investigator, and she doesn't really know she's a Grim Reaper at first, and then she learns she's a Grim Reaper because she can see dead people, and because she's a private investigator, they come to her so that she can figure out whatever needs to be solved, or their last wish or who their killer was, and then they can move on. But there's also the son of Satan, and that's her enemy. Satan's her enemy, and so the son of Satan comes to Earth, but that's also the love interest. There's a lot of spice in the book, and there's a lot of humor in the book. If you're wanting something like dark but not like scary dark and you want like some chuckles, there are 13 books in this series. And also by Dorinda Jones is another series about witches, and the first one is called Betwixt, and I have to show you the covers because I really like them. And then the second one is Bewitched, and the third one is Beguiled. And I don't have the fourth one because I am behind, but it has the same humorous voice. One thing I liked about this one was it is part of a newly established sort of group. Robin Peterman and Dorinda Jones and like several other authors, I want to say there's 13 total, they decided to write series that were based on women over 40. So the main character is like 40, and she has some like magic, some witch powers, and she inherits this house from a stranger. The house is kind of alive, she thinks. There's some other creatures, paranormal creatures. There's a love interest, this Scottish groundskeeper.
So this one is definitely magical. It is Stephen King's Needful Things. Actually, Rick and Morty did a parody episode about this book, but essentially the premise is that there is this shop in this small town, and when people go in there looking for items, the items that they get are almost like a monkey's paw type situation, where it comes with like a curse or a lesson. There's clearly secrets, like magical secrets that the shop owner has that allows the objects to be kind of imbued with this, not just magic slash curse slash whatever, but it's almost like each individual who comes into the store for an item gets specifically like a tailored curse or a tailored magical experience. A shop owner is this kind of enigmatic trickster archetype. It is not boring, especially if you've ever lived in a small town. It's one of those things where you try to imagine, like, holy crap, could you imagine something like that coming to a small town where everyone has their status quo and no one deviates from the norm, and then boom, here's this magical shop that is just creating waves. Really good read.
I'm gonna throw this one in there because I bought this book because I liked the cover. So this is House of Hollows. It's pretty popular. It was a Target buy. It's by Crystal Sutherland, and it's about these sisters. They went missing as children and were gone for quite a while, and they just like showed back up. They had no memory. They couldn't tell anybody where they had been. Their teeth were different. Their hair had all turned white. So one of the sisters, I think it's the oldest sister, she becomes a fashion designer. She puts nature into all of her garments. Like she'll sew them in, and she'll even hide them in the hems, and she'll do really weird things, and it will smell like really disgusting and bad, but she's super, super famous and everybody wants her stuff. You find out later that what she was doing has to do with like what was going on when they went missing. Nature kind of takes over. There's also a different realm of existence.
That's really cool. It reminds me of like the stories of when children are taken to the fairy realm, and then they come back not quite the same, especially when you're talking about their hair changing. And what that reminds me of are one's a short story and one's a novel. The book that was then turned into a movie adaptation, Annihilation, it was starring Natalie Portman, is where alien life forms come to Earth, but instead of it being like Mars Attack or War of the Worlds, it's more of micro creatures that change our body composition and turn us into something entirely different and like mutate us. And that is also kind of the premise of one of my books, which is just a collection of H.P. Lovecraft short stories. The short story, The Color Out of Space, is about essentially alien life form that comes to Earth. It lands on this farm, and it starts to change and mutate livestock and then human beings within this perimeter around it. So it's like germ warfare or like a bacterial overtaking rather than your classic alien invasion that we like to think of with guns and explosions and lasers and crafts. Instead, it's like literally the cells in our body are being mutated by this alien life form. That's my favorite kind of horror. It's actually called cosmic horror.
All right, well, that is it for our recommendations for witchy, Grim Reaper, just magical type of vibes for some good October reads. And we are doing these mini episodes. The next episode will feature vampires. I wonder what book I will recommend.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.